I want to share with you a story. When I was growing up, there were these two giant sugar maple trees in the front of the house. I used to climb them or try to climb them. They towered above the 18th or 19th century farmhouse. And in the autumn, the leaves that came down were magnificent. A couple years ago, they got damaged, and my dad had to take them down. And he kept coming back to the conversation about these trees. He kept saying to me, those trees, I got to do something now about those trees. The conversation returned again and again to these sugar maple trees. I was like, Dad, it's okay. Like, this is the circle of life, right? Things die, it starts again. You can plant new trees. It's okay. So I was trying to be understanding, but I wasn't understanding. Then he said to me, you know, Chris, you don't know the trees are your friends until they're gone. You don't know they're your friends until they're gone. It's so simple. Although technology is not. We bump into nature all the time. It's all around us. It might be a glimpse of those sugar maple leaves falling down as you're rushing to school or rushing to work. It might be in the spring when the seeds helicopter down from the sky and land somewhere looking for a place to grow. They have so much potential. We're a species like all the others that we share this planet with, right? We're a product of our evolutionary history. We're connected to other species. This is part of who we are. We're not disconnected, we're connected. I want to explore this connection a little bit with some audience participation. With spiders. How many of you love spiders? Let's have a show of hands. There's a smattering of people here that fall in the camp of loving spiders. Let's now take a poll of how many of you dislike spiders. Okay, it's fair to say more on the dislike side than on the like side. What I find fascinating is that spiders, I've studied spiders for some 30 years, and whenever I ask this question, you get this strong reaction. People have this kind of sense that, yeah, spiders are okay, I'm kind of interested, maybe I'm curious about them, or the far other side, like many of you in this room. Dislike them, maybe even scared of them, deeply fearful, a phobia. This story of spiders, though, is really just an illustration that we are connected to nature because we get that reaction to spiders. I want to teach you a word. It's called biophilia. Biophilia is our intimate and deep connection to nature. It's our love of nature. And that illustration with the spiders is that it's our reaction to nature. As I said before, nature is all around us. And every one of the species in our environment has a role to play. You may not fully realize it, but they're all important, even our lowly spiders, right? The diversity of species that we live with, they pollinate our plants, they give us food, they clean our air, they clean our water. They're deeply important to us. Spiders, well, you know what they do? They build these giant webs, beautiful giant webs, and insects that are zooming by catch into those webs. They play a role in our ecosystems. So even if you don't like them, they play a role. I'm going to share now a story about a cousin of a spider, something called a pseudoscorpion. A what? A pseudoscorpion. I was driving along a northern highway in the Yukon with my field team, and out of the corner of my eye, I saw a sign that said Sheep Creek. It was indicating a river that was flowing off to the side of the road. As slammed on the brakes of the car. The whole research team got out. We went down to the river. We started looking for an animal. You see, I had read in the scientific literature about a pseudoscorpion, which looks like a tiny scorpion without a tail. I'd read about a pseudoscorpion that lived under rocks next to Sheep Creek, Yukon. I was there. Let's have a look. So we scrambled down. We started turning over the rocks. Would it be there? And there it was. It could sit on top of my pencil. That's how small it was. It was exhilarating. It was magical. A tiny arachnid living under rocks next to Sheep Creek, Yukon. The distribution of this species is super interesting. It's only known in North America to live in parts of the Yukon and the Alaska that were unglaciated during the last ice age. So when most of the rest of the top of the continent had sheets of ice over top of it 15,000 years ago, some parts of the Yukon and Alaska did not. You might think of Ice Age relics, woolly mammoths and such. Many of these went extinct. But this little pseudoscorpion, that little thing that you could put on the tip of a pencil, did not. It thrived and it survived under rocks next to Sheep Creek. So we worked on this and learned more about the species. And one of the things that came to mind was these, if you were to go by these creeks in the spring, with the snow melt, the rivers would rise and rush across the landscape. This small critter here doesn't have wings, doesn't move very fast. What the heck does it do? Well, working with colleagues, we learned that it can actually stay alive underwater for almost 3 weeks. And it does this by creating a little bubble of air around its tiny body, and it hunkers down while these raging rivers fly over top. It's extraordinary. That's its story. And the story of a species is its natural history. And natural history, every species has a natural history. What it looks like, where it lives, what it eats, mating, its courtship, etc. These stories we have to listen to. We have to pay attention to these stories. They tell us things. Stories are our connection to nature. And this is really pretty important right now. There are all kinds of changes happening that we don't even really realize. And we tend to take nature for granted. Yet things happen right in front of our eyes. This ladybug is known as the seven-spotted ladybug, or C7. It's probably the most common bright red ladybug that you'll see in the summers. It's everywhere. But it's not supposed to be here. It's an invasive or an introduced species that was brought in many, many, many years ago to feed on soybean aphids, which eat our food. So the idea was, this is a good thing. Let's introduce a species that can help us. Well, the seven-spotted ladybug's close cousin, the nine-spotted ladybug, which is native to our region, is now extinct across much of its range. So there's one thing comes, one thing goes. There's these changes all the time in front of us. And tinkering with nature in this way can't be done lightly. And we tinker with it every day. We don't even realize it. Everything we do, we are impacting our natural systems. These species that have these stories to tell us. And we know that there are huge challenges with our world, right? Climate change, overexploitation of resources, loss of natural habitats, the introduction of invasive species, etc. It's scary. It's happening. Yet I told you about this connection that we have to our natural world, is biophilia. What do we do? I'm not going to actually share with you a grand big idea. I'm actually going to share with you small ideas, small things that you can do every single day. It can start very simply. You can ask a kid to take a recipe card and draw a portrait of something that they see in their environment. This was done by a young man named Peter. It's unmistakably a robin. He was very young when he did this. He quite clearly states that robin eats worms. I think this is quite astute, because we always assume that robins eat worms, but their diet is broader than worms. So I think Peter did a fine job of assessing something important in the natural world, that perhaps robins eat worms. You can all do this. These are the small things you can do. You can take that pencil. You have a pencil. You can grab a sketchbook. You can grab a journal. Heck, you can watch nature documentaries online. You can follow amazing biologists on social media. You can flip through field guides. You can buy a cheap pair of binoculars and look at birds that you know nothing about. Maybe when you're hearing the geese fly overhead, you can pause and reflect on that noise and that sound and think about their journey, their extraordinary journey, compared to a pseudoscorpion in Sheep Creek. Maybe you can watch squirrels that run around your university campus. There are a few of those. Maybe you can take a walk in a forest. There's this thing called forest bathing. You may have heard of this. This is this concept that when you spend time in nature, with nature, it's good for your mental health and good for your physical health. So as a bonus for hanging out with nature and taking pictures and doing drawings, it's going to be good for you. That's pretty nice. When you're in those forests, you can look up to those sugar maple trees that my dad loves so much. Maybe you like oak trees. Maybe you like pine trees. These trees, they've watched you grow. They watched me grow. They're older than us. They have stories to tell us, and they care about us. When you ask people what they truly care about, what's important, they invariably talk about the importance of long, healthy, wonderful lives for the people that they love. Their sons, their daughters, aunts, uncles, friends, spouse, grandparents, mothers, fathers, aunts, uncles. They talk about that the people that they love, they want a good life for the people that they love. It's all we want to do with nature, too. Okay? If we love nature, we're going to care about it a great deal. Simple. Look up at those pine trees. Appreciate what they are. One of the founders of the conservation movement, John Muir, wrote, "Between two pine trees is a doorway to a new way of life." So my challenge to you, my idea for you, is to walk through that doorway, connect with that biophilia that's deep within you, that emotional connection, that irrational, I may even say. I lost my scientific objectivity when I was searching for pseudoscorpions and finding it and realizing how beautiful they were, these tiny creatures with so much beauty. You can embrace that biophilia, that connection with nature. Take a step through that doorway. It's really important. It's about watching, listening, spending time with nature. As if you love nature, you're going to value it. If you value it, you're going to save it. So if you connect with biophilia, when there's those opportunities to protect vulnerable species, give money to a conservation group, spend your own time, working with youngsters and talking about spiders and other fun critters, you'll be more quick to do those things if you care about it, right? And I'm not expecting all of you here to love spiders. You don't have to do that, okay? But maybe you can step back and question why you're having that reaction. And is there something you can learn about spiders and something you can take away and hold on to? And I go back to what my dad said right at the start. We don't want to realize that we have all these friends after they're gone. Thank you.